This essay is an introduction to the universal science and to the theory of everything that culminates in the establishment of a theocracy. Science is either a waste of time, it is either a meaningless search for random facts that have no connection and cannot be correlated, or it is a search for a truth that culminates in a theory of everything. If there is a theory of everything, it gives us a way of life that is tantamount to a utopia, for it is a system without any social problems. If science is the former, it is best operated from a position of emotional catharsis. If there is no absolute truth, then science is nothing more than a way to release our frustrations and confirm our prejudices. But if there is a truth, then science cannot confirm or substantiate lies. If there is a truth, our assumptions and prejudices can be confirmed to be wrong. If science is the search for the truth, it has direction and purpose. It has a beginning and an end. There is an end to science, a final culmination in which the truth becomes known. We can also assume that if we do science long enough and conscientiously enough, we will arrive at a final truth, and this truth will be arrived at by a consistent process of every greater consolidation of particular facts. If we never arrive at the truth, there is no truth, and if there is no truth, there is no guide to life and no right or wrong. Sanity requires an objective morality. If we all have our own truth, there is no truth, there are only opinions and no way to decide between them. In this case, democracy is the only possible way to govern, other than a tyranny. But even a tyranny is a type of restricted democracy, because the ruler must always rule in the favor of a cadre of supporters. No ruler can rule without any support. But how deep does our democracy go? Do we vote on whether God exists? Do we vote on who lives or dies? We do this in our jury trials, but do we extend this to other areas? Do we vote on when a person is too old to live, for example? The point is, if there is no truth to find, there is no purpose to life and nothing to guide us or that will tell us when we are wrong or right. But if this is the situation, how do we remain human? How can we be sentient when any action or inaction is as good as any other? How can there be choice unless there are right choices and wrong choices, independent of what we might prefer? We claim murder is wrong. Wrong in what sense? If there is no truth, or if your truth is not the same as my truth, which is not the same as a murderer's truth, when by what philosophy can we condemn the murderer? At best we can stop him or punish him because we have the power to make our truth prevail. But to say he is wrong for murdering someone, is to mark us as hypocrites. In a universe devoid of truth, there is no wrong or right, nor any ground for saying one truth is more valid than another. This leads us to the conclusion that there is no basis for claiming X is more sentient than Y, or a better role model. Indeed, there are no hierarchies in a universe where there is no truth. There cannot be truth unless truth is better than lies. But if there is a truth, what kind of truth would it be? Logically, truth can either be given or created, that is originated by a sentient intellect, or natural. But if truth is natural, how do we identify a lie or preference truth? There is only one way, and that is the law of the jungle. If we do not have God to create and convey the truth has to be defined by a being of superior power. However, if truth is attached to a dictator, we are back at the point where there is no real truth, there is only those truths someone with irresistible power can enforce. Truth becomes a political position, taken for political ends, that end being the power to decide what is true. This is what we call the law of the jungle. In the jungle, the greatest power rules. That which has the greatest power controls the most property to the largest extent, even to life itself. This does not define truth, it defines opinion, and opinion is not truth, unless one's opinion changes or defines reality. If one's opinion defines reality, that defines that being is God. We know there is a reality. We know humans do not define what is real, therefore, despite the power that we do have, none of us have the power to change the laws of physics. Therefore, our power, the power of the tyrant, is always conditional and limited. Man has been forced by circumstances to accept there is a reality we can study but not control, or at least which we cannot dictate to. We can claim there is a natural truth, but this poses a problem because nature cannot or does not dictate to us, other than in the most general of ways. We are born and die, and we are subject to natural law, but natural law plays only a small role in the development of civilization. Natural law does not explain humanity, and humanity does not explain natural law. There appears to be two systems at work here. But perhaps this impression is due to our commitment to natural law as an explanatory principle, and it is insufficient. Natural law, even if it explains gravity, cannot explain why mankind can know the truth. We have had several theories of gravity, and even if none of them are perfect, the theory has evolved over time to become better. This is because mankind has a sense of truth. We have a sense of direction, and our research has a sense of purpose. We are always looking for a theory that is more perfect and more reflective of the truth than the ones in use. But natural law does not explain us. Why does man look for perfection, unless we have an idea what perfection is? Our natural sciences deal in causality. Things are caused to happen. But mankind is not caused to pursue science. Purpose and desire and intent is ontological. Mankind is governed by a sense of not only what could be, but what ought to be. Why would we commit to building a civilization if we were not subject to a higher reality? If nature is all there is, we would live hand to mouth, doing as little as possible to stay alive. Only if there is a sense of purpose created by the knowledge of a reality higher than that formed by natural law, would we feel a need to be governed by it. There is much discussion about the role religion played in the development of Western civilization. The claim that Protestantism led to the rise of capitalism has been discredited, but the promotion of this idea assumes that Protestantism is biblical, and that capitalism is consistent with the purpose of man. In fact, Western civilization came about despite the influences of these systems. Neither Protestantism nor capitalism are biblical. Protestantism and capitalism arose as part of Western civilization, but were faulty elements at best. They did not cause Western civilization, and we would have gone further and done better had we followed a more biblical path. Protestantism and capitalism were incidental to the rise of Western civilization. The crucial factor was faith. This is a difficult factor to pin down because it is seen only indirectly. We know the West had faith because it created a civilization, despite not being able to view faith directly. One of the major signs that accompany faith is delayed consumption. Faith as a generalized term is manifested as a faith in the future. Faith in the future permits us to engage in delayed consumption. If we have no interest in the future, we will consume what we produce and generate a subsistence culture. The difference between subsistence cultures and an advanced Western culture is the level of faith that exists in the West. This is partly due to Christianity, but there are cultural elements at work, also. We can trust, or have faith in, those who are honest and who are trustworthy. Which brings up the question as to what marks an untrustworthy person. We do not trust those who lie, and that would include those who devise their own truths, if we subscribe to the idea there is a truth to which we are all subject. Apologetic is the science of or study of the mind of God as encapsulated in reality. The truths of reality are the truths conveyed to us by God. Apologetic explains and clarifies these truths. As we come to the truth given to us by God, we come to a theocracy. There can be no other end to the search for truth than a theocracy. That is, if we seek the truth we have to come to the origin, the source of the truth. If there is a truth it has to be coherent and of all one substance. There cannot be an infinite number of sources for an infinite number of truths. Truths cannot be unrelated. There can only be one source of truth, but if this is true, why are there what are called the hard sciences and the soft sciences? Why is there not one single science, if there is one source for all truth? Why do we even need so many hard sciences, and why do they not seem interrelated, and why is there so little overlap? Why does physics have nothing to do with psychology or politics? Human behavior cannot be quantified, at least in terms of any of the five senses. Nor is there any likelihood we will find a source of truth in the physical universe. Even the beginning of the universe is problematical, given that time cannot be contained within time and space cannot encompass all of space, if time and space have a starting point. Logically, we are at an impasse with materialism. We are locked in a set of scenarios and conceptions that have nowhere to go. If truth is found in nature, it had to have a source outside of nature, because nature does not have any door through which truth can arrive. Truth is information, which tends to preclude a natural source. Information originates in a sentient being and is transmitted to another sentient being as communication. Communicating information requires encoding into symbols that can be decoded, meaning the recipient must understand the language and the grammar of the transmission. If we postulate a divine origination, then we can understand that there is at least one class of beings whose concern and focus is on communicating with the divine source of information. This would correspond to a desire to understand reality as a divine creation. At this point, we need to make an attempt to understand life as viewed from the perspective of someone who is in contact with God, compared with those who reject the things God is communicating. It is at this point that language begins to fail us, because it is predicated on there being a physical reality. But what if our speech was primarily social? God speaks to us in terms of a created reality. He literally speaks to us in sunsets and flowers and in cook breezes. We answer him in terms of innovation and works of faith that build up his kingdom. Civilization would then be the sum total of what is said between man and God. That is, as we do what is right, we are in an actual communication with God. Life is a communication between man and God or man and Satan. Who are you talking with? Apologetic in this sense is an analysis of language to determine who we are talking with and what they are saying. The analysis looks at the result. All good comes from God. Good can be measured in terms of the value it creates, that is, the value of our work. This is the fruit of faith. Civilization is the difference between the value we create and the value we consume. Faith is that portion dedicated to God in the creation of his future. It is really not that complicated. Apologetic looks at the value of our work as the manifestation of our godly communication. All things belong to God. As we add value to the things of God, we are doing charity or being charitable. The greatest gift is the gift we give to the future. This manifests as civilization. This gift is the measure of our faith. Increasing this level of our contribution is the purpose of apologetic.